Gareth Aiden. Today is May the 6th, 2019, and it is my pleasure today to be here on behalf of the Nashville Bar Association and its Historical Committee to take the oral history of one of our longest sitting and very well-known and respected judges, Seth Norman. Seth, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Gareth.
Let's begin at the beginning. If you will, give us your full name and your date of birth, please, sir.
My name is Seth Walker Norman. Date of birth is April 6, 1934.
And I believe that you, all of your life, have lived here in Nashville, Davidson County.
I've lived in Nashville all my life, except when Uncle Sam decided I needed to live otherwise.
Exactly. You know, your father, when I began practice, was one of the lions of the Nashville Bar. And he was probably known as one of the best trial lawyers in the state, maybe even in the Southeast. What was it like in the Jack Norman Sr. household growing up?
We very rarely saw my father. He was a workaholic, and it was usually only on the weekends that we would see him. And he would leave early in the morning. He would not return probably until we were all in bed, except on weekends.
So your mom had duty for you and your brothers and sisters?
My mother ran the entire family. That's just all it was. My father thought he did, but he did not.
What was your mom's full name, please?
Carrie Laura Sneed Norman.
Okay. And had she grown up here in Nashville?
Yes, she had.
Tell us a little bit about your brothers and sisters and where you stood in the lineup.
There were 5 of us. Jack Norman Jr. was the oldest. Robert Sneed Norman was next. Carolyn May Norman, now Toon, was next. I was next, and the last one was Julia Norman.
And I believe that your sister Carolyn became John Toon's wife.
That's correct.
Later on in life. Was there a lot of sibling rivalry between you and the older boys and your younger brother?
No, there was not a lot. When I was young, Jack was quite a bit older than I was, and when I was probably 10 or 12 years old, he went off to the service in World War II, and then shortly after that, my older brother Bob went to Korea. So there was no. We got along very well, I think, as a family.
Where was the family home, Judge?
My first recollection was 3320 Fairmont Drive, which is in Ackland Park, right off the West End. When I was about 14, I guess, we moved to Innsworth Avenue, the location where Innsworth School is located now. That was our home at that time.
Right. And you, let's see, would have attended Ransom?
To grammar school at John B. Ransom School.
Which is now right where Elmington Park sort of is.
That's
there,
correct.
in that area. How did you do in school?
I was a terrible student.
And I believe when you finished Ransom, you went to a school that I really am not familiar with, and that was the Duncan Preparatory School.
I was sentenced to Duncan Preparatory School for Boys, which was located on 25th Avenue, where the Vanderbilt gym is located at the present time. That school was strictly male. It was, you took the 7th and 8th grade together, and then you took regular high school. So I was there for 5 years. There were about 100 students in the school time. Mr. and Ms. Marvin T. Duncan ran the school, and they had 3 or 4 other teachers as well as a librarian and a coach and teacher.
And if I recall, you told me that the school took place on the first 2 floors, and then on the 3rd floor, Mr. and Mrs. Duncan lived there.
That's correct.
How many people attended while you were there?
There were 18 in my graduating class, and usually there was a total of about 100 students.
Did you enjoy it?
Oh, yes. It was one of the best times of my life.
Are there any folks who we would know here at the bar that attended with you?
Several have passed on. Judge Swiggett's brother went there. Louis Hollaball went there. B.B. Gullett's brother went there. Those are the ones that I can recall right off the top of my head.
When did you graduate from Duncan Preparatory?
Graduated in 1951.
And so there you are, fresh out of high school and ready for college. What happened next?
I was enrolled in Vanderbilt. I spent 1 year. I think I made all perfect grades. I think they were all F's. I did not enjoy it. The Korean War was going on at that time, and for some reason or other, I decided that I needed to go to service. So without my parents' permission or anything, I went down and signed up for the United States Air Force. In 1953, January of 1953, I was called up and went to the service.
And where did you do your basic?
I did my basic at Lackland Air Force Base in San Antonio, Texas.
Now, you mentioned that your brother, Jack, had already been in the service.
Right.
Is that correct? Was he in the Air Force also?
No, Jack was in the Army, and
Okay.
he was stationed first at, when they sent him overseas, the first duty station was in Hawaii. And then after that, he was shipped to Tarawa, whatever you want to call it.
How did you do in the Air Force? Did you, I presume you went through training for either
I went through
pilot
basic training, and then they sent me to electronics school. While I was in electronics school, I saw a notice that they had waived the college requirement for pilots, so I applied for a slot to pilot training, took what they call the psychomotor test, and passed that, but my eyesight would not allow me to become a pilot, so they shipped me off to navigation school.
And where was that?
First I was at Harlingen, Texas, and then I was at Waco, Texas.
And did you complete the training for navigator?
I trained as a navigator and was commissioned as a second lieutenant.
And this would be, I presume, in what, early 94 or 54?
1954.
Right. Where were you sent, Seth?
I was sent to Kadena Air Force Base on Okinawa.
And what took place there?
Well, I was flying, navigate on a B-29. Most of the time I was assigned to a B-29. We had a number of different type of airplanes in that squadron. And from time to time I'd fly on all of them, but basically I would navigate on a B-29.
What was happening during this period in the Pacific that I think had a big impact on what you did?
The Korean War was winding down, and the armistice, or what, there's never been an armistice, but the peace agreement was signed. And then we began to have flights into Southeast Asia. We were flying into Saigon and Bangkok, and the Vietnam War had not started at that time, but we were hauling stuff into Saigon on a regular basis.
When you flew, did you fly as a military personnel, or?
If we were going to Saigon or Bangkok, they would take all of our identification away from us, dress us in civilian clothes, give us a .38 pistol with one round, and tell us bye, and off we went.
What type of missions was it? Were you just dropping supplies?
I have no idea. The Bombays were sealed, and they would not tell us what we were hauling. I do recall seeing the manifest on one flight, and it says we were probably carrying 10,000 pounds of Coca-Cola signs, but I doubt that very seriously.
So you simply went to some place in the jungle and made drops.
Oh yeah, we would drop from time to time.
Oh, that's fascinating. And I presume that this had to do with the political situation and the fact that we weren't officially at war.
We weren't officially at war, and I always got tickled because at one time I heard President Eisenhower say, "We have no presence in Southeast Asia." And I said, "Well, what the hell am I doing flying in and out of Saigon and Bangkok?"
Did you eventually rotate back stateside?
Right. I came back to the United States and was assigned to Mobile, Alabama.
Did anything interesting happen after you came back while you were still in the service?
No, I just flew back and forth to Europe, South America, Africa, and the Middle East, and I was assigned then to a cargo squadron, so we carried cargo.
Did you ever have any problems on your flights?
Not when I was there. When I was still on Okinawa, we had a little difficulty. Had to crash land at Hickam Field in Hawaii one time.
You know, you had mentioned to me that during your service that you came home for a little while on leave and found out your dad had a very important visitor.
After that crash in Hickam, Honolulu, they sent us home for 10 days. I got to Nashville, and the time I had left to go overseas, until I got back on this particular date, my father had moved his office from the old Exchange building to 213 3rd Avenue North. So I did not know anything about the office. I got into Nashville early in the morning, took a cab downtown to the address they'd given me. I walked in, and my father's longtime secretary, Miss Imogene Muse, just almost fainted when I walked in, you know, and I said, "Well, where are my parents?" And they said, "They're upstairs." And I said, "Roy, the upstairs is." So she took me upstairs to the apartment. My mother came down the hall and saw me and went into a screaming fit. You know, said they didn't know I was coming. And she said, "Come on down to the dining room. I want you to meet somebody." And I walked down to the dining room, and she said, "I want you to meet Senator Jack Kennedy." And Senator Kennedy was there having breakfast with me.
Wow. Do you have any idea, did you ever find out what he was there for?
I think it had something to do with the Hoffa Malley down in Chattanooga. That was later on, but I think that's what it was there for. I don't know exactly why.
Yeah, I think that probably would be a good guess. Your active duty was over in what about mid?
I got out in September 1957.
Right.
And then went into the Air National Guard for another 6 or 7 years.
And I think there were a number of lawyers here in Nashville who were in the Air Guard at that same time. Who was?
John Toon was one of them.
Right.
That's all I think of right off the top. I know John Doe was a pilot out there.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And Ray, who was it? Ray Barrett.
Ray Barrett, Jack Butler, both General Howard Butler was there, and General Howard Butler was a real character. Flying with him was really something.
I think Joe Martin. Was Joe prominent in the Air Guard?
He was in the Guard, but I don't even remember what his rank was or what he did.
Right. Okay, well, what, after you got out, and other than staying active in the Air Guard, what did you do, Seth?
Well, took 2 weeks off after I got out of the service, and my father got me a job working in the circuit court clerk's office for Mr. Alf Rutherford. And I started there. I did not have enough college credits to get into law school, so I enrolled back in Vanderbilt for a while, 1 semester. During that time, I learned that you could get college credits for service schools you had attended. And I also found out that there was a master sergeant down at Seward Air Force Base in Smyrna that granted the hours for schools you attended. I also learned that Master Sergeant had a love of Jack Daniel whiskey. So after a couple of cases of Jack Daniel whiskey, I've had one of the darndest transcripts you ever saw in your life. And I got into law school.
And where did you go to law school, sir?
I went to what I then called the YMCA Night Law School, of course, Nashville School of Law.
And it was in the old YMCA building right here.
YMCA building up on 7th and Union. That's where we started. Jack Butler was in that class. Ray Barrett was in that class. Bill Rutherford was in that class. It was a pretty good class.
Who were your teachers, or ones you can
Mr. Billy
remember?
Pippa, I recall. Ed Herod was one of them. Harris Gilbert was one of them. Those are the ones that I can recall right off the top of my head.
Did you like it?
Yes, I did like it. It was very interesting, and growing up the way I did, the law wasn't exactly foreign to me.
Exactly.
And
And it was something you were
Right.
really interested in.
exactly. And I worked for Mr. Rutherford 3 years while I was in law school, and in the last year, I worked out of the law office as a gopher. And to say, my father's secretary, Miss Imogen Hughes, probably taught me more law than any of them did.
When did you graduate from
Graduated
Y?
in 1962.
And again, you had a pretty well-known class. I mean, Jack Butler and Ray Barrett and you and
Leon Rubin,
a lot of judges in
Obie
that class.
Myers, Jr.
So, you've got your law degree now, and what did you do?
Well, I started general practice. At the same time, I got elected to the state legislature, and I served 1 term in the legislature, and did not run again because I just had to try to feed a family. That's what I had to try to do. I was married at that time and had 2 children, and so it was necessary to work. That's one of the other reasons that I quit flying for Tennessee Air National Guard. I was the only navigator out there, and they always wanted me to go overseas, and I couldn't practice law going back and forth to Europe, so I had to get out, and I did.
You were with your dad's office.
Right, that's correct.
Who else was there at that time?
Oh, let's see, there was Herb Rich, and Earl McNabb, Jack Jr., and my father, and Gail Robinson Sr.
And what type of practice? I presume it was basically a trial practice that you had.
General practitioner, anything that came through the door, just about.
Your dad was best known for criminal practice.
Right.
Did you do some of that?
He did a lot of divorce work and a lot of personal injury work also.
Right, right. And did he give you, some guidance about practice and what was important or what you should look for?
I think he did the same thing to me that a lot of lawyers have done to young lawyers. I had a personal injury case, the first one I had, and I asked him if he would help me, and he said certainly. So we went over, got in the courtroom. As I recall, we were in Judge Roy Miles' court, and he said, "Now you pick the jury." And I got up and ran the board dial and questioned the juror, turned around to ask him what he thought of the jury, and he was gone. And there I was, so he'd thrown me to the wolves, so I had to I tried the lawsuit and I won.
That made you feel good.
I think I got a $1,500 verdict. I thought it was all the money in the world.
Well, times have changed.
Oh,
I
yes,
don't
ma'am.
think that happens too much anymore, but I know it happened back in the day. What did you enjoy? What types of practice did you come to enjoy?
My
Seth?
father always said that what you do is you practice law, you practice domestic law for a regular income, you practice personal injury law for the big hitter, and you practice criminal law for fun. And that's what he thought. And I enjoyed trying criminal cases also.
You know, I think that you proceeded for what, about 20 years to practice law before you became
18
a
years.
18 years.
No, excuse me, 28 years. 28 years.
Yeah. Were there any cases in that period of time that sort of stand out in your memory as being ones you'd like to remember or talk about?
Representing, starting to represent a preacher from East Nashville who had killed his handyman at the church and then tried to burn the church to cover it up. And I started out in that case, but I had to withdraw because he had given me a motorcycle as part of the fee. And came to find out that he had severed the deceased head and put it in a saddlebag on a motorcycle and thrown it in a river somewhere in West Tennessee. So when I found that out, I had to withdraw from the case and turn the motorcycle over to then I represented an individual who was connected with the Ray Blanton scandal, automobile dealer from down in Jackson, Tennessee, representing him.
Now, I think there was a pretty famous case, and I know one you enjoyed with John Hollins.
Oh, yeah.
Tell us about that. That's a story that needs to be told.
I represented an individual charged with murder, and he had shot and killed an acquaintance of his. There was a witness who had testified that my client and the deceased had been arguing earlier in the day, but they were drinking. They both went in a room away from where the witness was, and the witness heard a gunshot and went in and found the deceased, and he'd been shot with a shotgun that my client was holding. We tried the case. John Hollins, my client, kept telling me that the shotgun was defective and went off by mistake. John Hollins prosecuted the case. We got down to final argument. John Hollins jumped up and grabbed the shotgun. It was a double barrel 12-gauge shotgun. He broke it open the way it will, and he says that the gun went off by mistake. That is impossible because you unbreached the shotgun like this, and he did, and then you breach it back, and it automatically goes back on safety, and you cannot pull the trigger. You see, he did it, pulled the trigger, and it went click, bigger than hell. Hollins just sat down. The jury was like 5 minutes.
That only happens to a lawyer once in his life, but it's wonderful. Who were them?
The only other funny one I remember is I did represent an individual one time. I think it was on an assault case. And it's the only case I'm aware of where the defendant walked out of the courtroom and the prosecuting witness went to jail. The jury came back. It was in front of Judge John Draper. The jury came back and found my client innocent. They said that, and when they said that, the prosecuting witness jumped up and said, "Well, I'll be a son of a bitch." And Judge Draper said, "That'll cost you 10 days in jail."
Oh, what was it? What judges? Your Honor, do you remember from those days that had an impact sort of on you or that you enjoyed trying cases in front of?
Judge Draper, Judge Leathers, Judge Cornelius were all just, they were more fun to try cases in front of. Judge Birch was the same way. I enjoyed trying criminal cases in front of all of them. All of the circuit judges, Judge Lester for a while, Judge Swigert, and then Judge Trimble. I'd worked for Judge Trimble when I was working for Al Rutherford, and then tried cases in front of him.
And Judge Trimble had the domestic court for many, many years.
Mm-hmm. And then, of course, after that, I tried divorce cases in front of Judge Muriel Robinson, and she and I had practiced law together.
What about lawyers? Are there any lawyers that, during that period that you were still practicing, that you thought were outstanding or that stand out in some
There
way?
were many of them. I mean, you take people like Tyree Harris, or Ed Herod, I don't know. There were so many of them that it's not even funny. And back in those days, a lawyer's word was his bond. 99% of the members of the bar, if they told me something, that was just it. I didn't question what they told me. Of course, there's always that 1% that you'll never be. But it seems to be quite different now. There was quite a bit of camaraderie back in those days. And I would sit down and have lunch with people that I would fight tooth and nail the next day in court, and then we'd go have lunch together. And that's just the way it was.
Well, one thing is for certain, that those were the days when there was a chance you could know most of the people in the bar.
Oh, yeah.
It was before it got so large.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I think that has impacted
Right.
things.
Well, when I came to the bar, as I recall, there were only 2 female lawyers. Miss Becky Thomas was one, and
Gail Pig was one.
Mildred, I can't remember her name, but
I remember Becky Thomas.
but
Yes.
there were only 2 female lawyers.
That's changed a lot.
It's changed a lot, but that's another thing too. I've seen as many good female lawyers as I've seen male lawyers, and that's just all there is to it.
Yeah. In about 1990, your career took a pretty marked turn. What happened?
I decided that I didn't want to beat my head against the wall the rest of my life practicing law. I also didn't have any retirement plan or any insurance plan, and they created the 4th Division for the criminal court, and I thought I'd take a chance at it, and I did, and I got elected as the first judge of Division for the criminal court for Davidson County, Tennessee.
How did you like being Your Honor?
Well, it takes some getting used to.
Tell us about
I was
that.
very fractious for the first 6 or 8 months, or maybe the first year. But then you begin to settle down, and I feel confident that I suffered from rovitis for a while. I hope I got cured myself of that, but some people will say I didn't, I'm sure. But I enjoyed being a judge.
And during that period of time, who else served on the criminal bench along with you early on in your practice?
Early on, well, it was Randall Watt and Tom Travel had already, Tom Travel was there. Randall Watt, Tom Travel, Ann Lacy John, and myself.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Exactly. What recollections do you have? I know that there are probably a million cases that you tried or were part of as judge, but any ones that stand out that were either very difficult or something exciting happened?
No, I really, they were all just sort of the same thing. I don't know how many murder cases we tried, but we tried a lot of them. And I had one where a fellow had killed another one because they wouldn't let him sing a song in karaoke and things like that. It just, you know, you have situations like that.
One of the high points really on your resume, and it doesn't just affect Nashville, I think it has affected the entire state, is a decision that you made in 1996 about starting a new type of court. Could you tell us about that? Because that really is an extremely important part of your career.
In 96, let's say there were 4 criminal courts, and we were all loaded down with cases. No way you could handle all of them. And I don't know, somewhere on television one night I saw where they had started what they called a drug court in Miami, Florida. And I thought, that's a good way to get another court here. So I applied, went to the legislature and asked them if it would be all right if I asked for a study to see whether we needed one or not. And I got what we call a study grant. Went through that. Then we got an implementation grant, and we started a drug court. We didn't get another court. I just got another docket. That's all there was to it. And so we started taking people who had drugs and tried to get them some treatment for their addiction. We started as an outpatient program, taking people who were on bond. It didn't take us long to realize that we needed to have a long-term treatment facility to treat people who were in jail, take them out of jail and give them treatment rather than just trying to put them in jail and drying them out, because that doesn't work. I found an old building out at Middle Tennessee Mental Health out on Murfreesboro Road and was allowed to use that building. I went to the jail and went through the jail and told them what I was doing, and I had 6 individuals said they'd like to try it. We had enough money to hire 1 counselor. We went out to Middle Tennessee Mental Health, and it was a raggedy old building. We didn't have anything. All we had to scrounge up beds and all that kind of stuff. But we got started. And it didn't take us long to figure out, to know that we had to have a place for females also. So we got another building out there. Then the male building was not big enough. We got another one. We wound up with about 4 or 5 buildings at Middle Tennessee Mental Health. And for some reason I'll never understand, I went down before the Metropolitan Council and asked them to pass a resolution saying that I could use that facility as long as the drug court was in operation. They passed that resolution. Within 6 months, the mayor, who was then Bill Bredesen, came to me and said, "You're going to have to move." And I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Dell Computers coming to town and they want that property." And I said, "Well, I'm sorry, Mayor, but I'm not going to move. I've got this resolution." And all of a sudden, the city of Nashville found $3 million they didn't know they had and went out and built me a new facility out on the old County Hospital Road. And that's where we operate now.
Where is that? You say County Hospital Road?
County Hospital Road is in Bordeaux, by the old Bordeaux Hospital.
Okay. All right, the old Bordeaux Hospital
Yeah,
area.
and this is next door to the old Bordeaux Hospital.
And when did that facility get completed?
I think we
approximately?
opened in 1998 out there, I believe it was.
Okay. And it's still operating to
It's
this
still
day?
operating, and now we operate another facility in Morgan County that's strictly for males. And the new budget includes money for a new 100-bed female facility. So we'll get that started here before long.
If you would, for people who don't know the criminal justice system and the problems that you face, tell us what difference this court has made in the facilities that are now available make for people who have a drug problem.
Before we had treatment, it is the old term, it was a revolving door. I would sentence people to jail or prison for a crime involving drugs, and within a short period of time, they'd be right back on my docket. And, and they just kept coming back and kept coming back. So we knew that the only way we could keep that from happening was to start a treatment facility. and it is a long-term residential treatment facility for males and females both in Nashville. If an individual wants treatment, they have to ask their lawyer. The lawyer then has to get the state to agree. If the state does agree, then the individual has to enter a plea to an underlying offense. Once he's entered a plea to that offense, he will then be placed in the long-term drug treatment facility. If he does not do what he is supposed to do, he or she, and they violate, the sentence is placed into effect. That's just all it is to it. At the current time, it costs $76 a day to house and feed an individual in the Department of Corrections. We house, feed, and treat for $55 a day. So
Wow.
the state saves money. We figure that for every individual that completes the program, the state saves a minimum of $37,000. So it's pretty cost effective. Some people can get it, some people can't get it, and that's just all there is to it. I'm always asked what the recidivism rate is. It took me 2 years to learn how to say recidivism, but I don't really know, if you want to know the truth, because we've had people now that have been out 20, 21 years, and I still see people that are clean and sober after 20 and 21 years. Some of them just disappear because they don't want to be connected with the drug court anymore, or they don't want society to know that they've ever been there. The only way we can check them is from time to time we try to get the TBI to run some of them through the NCIC computer to see whether or not they've been charged with anything. As near as we can figure, we have about a 25 to 27% recidivism rate compared to the national average for people who don't receive treatment and go to prison. Within 2 years, 76% of them will be back in jail. So
There you go.
we just reverse it.
There you go. And I'm guessing that there are people out there who call you or see you occasionally whose whole lives have been changed by the fact that they had this opportunity.
It makes you feel pretty good when you're walking through a mall somewhere and some mother stops you and says, "You saved my son's life," or something like that.
Yeah.
But now, y'all got to understand addicts too. Some of the tales you hear are really out there. I think the topper of all of them is, though, I had one individual who was in court on a violation who had tested positive for cocaine when he was supposed to be in treatment. And his story was he tested positive because he'd been bit by a cocaine-eating spider.
Well,
Oh, I mean, one of them told me that the other reason he tested positive because he'd been counting money, and evidently it had been belonged to some drug dealer because the money had cocaine on it, and that's why he tested positive.
how large is your staff now that is here in
At the
Davidson
drug court
County?
here, the staff is about 20 altogether.
My Lord, now you don't have to manage that staff, do you? Or do
Well,
you?
I have a director out there, but it's up to me. The budget there is about $1.6 million. The budget in Morgan County is, I think, about $1.4 million, and the new budget will be $1.5 million. So I'll be managing all three of them. It keeps you pretty busy.
How did it come to pass that you go to Morgan County? What happened?
Three of Governor Haslam's commissioners trapped me. The Commissioner of Addiction Services, the Commissioner of Corrections, and the Commissioner of Safety said, "Would you mind helping us start a new facility?" And I said, "I'd be glad to." I said, "Where's it going to be?" They said, "Well, come on and go with us." So they put me in a car, and we rode, and we rode, and we rode, and we rode. And the first thing I know, we're sitting behind old Brushy Mountain Prison up in Wartburg. There's a new prison up there, and there was an annex, and they said, we want to put it here. And I said, well, okay, so now every 2 times a month, I go back and forth to Morgan County, and that one's doing very well also.
And so you actually had a part in forming that and
Oh, yeah, we
staffing
started
it,
it.
and is it,
I'll have to do the same thing with the new women's facility.
who is the sort of judge who decides what criminals or quote patients go to that facility?
We take them from all over the state, so, I mean,
Okay.
we take them from all over the state. Some judges will send them, some judges won't. And I think last count we'd serviced 46 counties or something like that in the state. And,
How many folks are in the Morgan County facility?
Morgan County right now has, I think, 70, and Nashville has about 80 right now, but because of budget constraints, we're down to about 80 right now.
Is there, in your opinion, because I know you deal with this every day, and you've got to, and it's something that means a lot to you, is there any relief on the horizon for the problems we've had with drugs and the hydrocodones and the
They're gonna
oxycodones?
always find something. We started out fighting cocaine, powder cocaine and crack cocaine. And they said you can't treat it. Well, we had some success there. Then along came methamphetamine. Again, they said you can't do anything. Well, again, we had success. After that came opioids, and we've been treating people for opioids. Now comes fentanyl, and we gotta wrestle with that. The latest thing is what they call fentanyl, and that is an eloquent tranquilizer that people take.
My Lord.
So, you know, if they could, most of the fentanyl comes out of China, and they're trying to work with the Chinese to have them quit. If they do that, some other drug will pop up. We're beginning to see some meth come back. Don't see that much cocaine, but you do see some.
Yeah. Have you traveled around the country to sort of take the message about what you've done here in Tennessee?
They've asked me to speak a couple of places, yeah. And we've had people come in from different jurisdictions, asked to, see the facility. I think the most distant we had was an assistant prosecutor from Sydney, Australia, came in to see them.
Wow. So Tennessee, I'm certain, is not the only state that's dealing with this problem.
Oh, no.
Trying to find ways to deal
As
with it.
far as I know, we're the only state that has 2 court-operated treatment facilities, like our 2.
Right.
Not one in the country that I'm aware of.
Do you sort of coordinate with the Office of National Drug Control Policy?
We have in the past. We've done a lot of work with them. Right now, Washington's kind of, as everybody knows, in turmoil right now.
Yeah.
And it's pretty difficult to work with anybody up there.
Right. You know, we also hear a lot about veterans, and I know that's something you're interested in since that's you, and veterans treatment. Are we making strides there?
Oh, yeah. And I think I've got 6 or 7 veterans in Morgan County and probably 6 or 7 here in treatment right now. Some of them have pretty bad PTSD. Some of them are just drug addicts. That's all there is to it.
I don't want to give you too much of a big head, but in reading over your resume this last weekend, I noticed that you had received a Lifetime Achievement Award by the Tennessee Association for Alcohol and Drug Addiction. Is that correct?
I think, yeah. That's what it
And I think also the Corrections Department of the state has given you awards, and the Tennessee Medical Association also. You've also received, and I know this had special meaning for you, but the Nashville Bar, as a result of your work as a judge and work in the drug courts, has given you the Jack Norman Award, that's named for your father.
That's right.
Yeah. When did your dad pass away, Seth?
Oh, let's see, 19.
It's been a long time because
Exactly, 1990,
yeah, he lived long.
93.
Right, he lived longer than John Hooker because Mr. Hooker passed
Oh, yeah,
away
Mr. Hooker
a
passed away.
long time ago, right? But they were, even though that they had a lot of their most important cases against each other, they were still good friends.
Of course, excuse me. I'm named for Mr. Hooker's former partner, Seth Walker.
I wondered if that was where the
That's
Walker
exactly
came
who I'm
from.
named for.
Well, he's a lawyer that I never knew. Did you know Seth at all?
The only thing I remember about Mr. Walker was when I was very young, every Christmas Eve, he would show up at our house with a Christmas present for me. That's about all I remember about Mr. Walker. I was not very old when he died.
Yeah. What lessons, either legal or just in general lessons for the community and the state, do we have out of this sort of drug problem and alcohol problem that we're facing?
What lesson?
Yeah, I guess I'm asking you to be philosophical and about where.
Well, I think everybody knows, and I do not know why they won't do it, but you cannot cure an individual of an addiction to drugs by just locking them up in a cell. That just doesn't do it. Medical things that I've seen says that if you do that, their craving only increases as long as you lock them up, and when they get out, they're going to use twice as much as they did before they went in. So it doesn't make sense to me to just warehouse people when it is much cheaper to build and use treatment facilities. My treatment facility is more like a college campus than it is a prison. There are no guards or gates or anything like that. And they can walk off if they want to, and some of them do walk off. There's no question. But they're told if you walk off, you're going to be charged with escape. And it's going to add to your sentence. And we found out that for a while, if they were going to walk off, they were going to do it within the first 2 or 3 weeks that they were in treatment. So for the first 2 or 3 weeks they're in treatment, they live in a black and white striped jumpsuit. And believe it or not, Metro Police Department doesn't have much trouble finding somebody walking down County Hospital Road in a black and white striped jumpsuit. So, they will from time to time. That's just the nature of an addict. But it is much more productive to place an addict in treatment. Some of them will not take treatment. Now, I've had a lot of them just asked to go back to jail because the program is too rigid and they'd rather use. And that's going to happen. The age makes a lot of difference.
How is that?
The young ones just haven't, as they say in treatment, hit bottom yet. And they think they're still Superman and they can still control it. And the thing that does bother me now, talking about young people, the police departments and the fire departments are all issued what they call Narcan now, which is a chemical that you can give to a person who is in overdose and it will revive them. And now I am told that kids are holding Narcan parties. And what they'll do is one guy standing there with the Narcan, and then the other, somebody else will see how much drugs he should use it takes for him to overdose. And when he overdoses, they shoot him with the narcan. Time and time again, we've seen where people hit with narcan, and within 24 hours, they've overdosed again.
It's almost like playing Russian roulette.
It is
See how
like
close
Russian
you
roulette, and there's a push right now for what they call medically assisted treatment, and that is giving people drugs that are opioids, but not as strong as what you're used to, trying to wean them off of it. I don't believe it works. We're an abstinence program, and I will always believe that abstinence is the only way to go. But I've been proven wrong on other things, but they're gonna have to prove it to me before I use it.
Well, what you have accomplished with the drug courts is pretty incredible, and I know you're proud of it. Let's take a minute and talk about your own family and sort of what your community activities and hobbies have been over the last few years. What do you do when you're not working with the drug court?
My wife says I don't do anything but drug court. That's about the truth. I'm out there every Saturday. I'm out there all the time. And I don't suppose I have any hobbies other than the drug court. I used to play some golf, but some reason I couldn't buy a ball. It just, all the balls I bought wanted to go to the right for some reason, but I never understood why. But anyhow.
Sounds like me. Seth, let's take them. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I have 3 children. One of them is a lawyer. One of them works with the mother in the jewelry store business, my former wife, and one of them is in the trucking business. And fortunately, none of them have the problem I have to deal with. I'm very fortunate as far as that goes.
Looking back over the years, what changes have you seen in law practice that are worthy of note to you?
Well, I haven't been over in what we call the historical courthouse now. I don't go over there, but when I started practicing law and until I went on the bench, there were civil trials going on over there all the time. I mean, I've even waited in line to try a civil case. I don't think they try any anymore, not that many. I remember years ago, my father and I had a pretty serious personal injury case, and we couldn't get a court. We were set to be tried on a particular Monday, and we couldn't get a court. And my father started asking around, and he found one court. I think I can't remember whose court it was. Might have been Judge Lester's court. But he went to the 2 lawyers and said, "How far are y'all apart on settlement?" And they said $500. And my father said, "You just settled the case, now let me have that court." And he paid the $500 so we could get the court.
That's a great story.
We got a sizable judgment too. But, I mean, that's how busy it was. You might get crowded out. You might not get a trial. Again, if 90% of the lawyers told me something, that was just it. You didn't question if they told you something. I do remember another one though. My brother and I were sitting down in the office one morning about 8:30. Trial, of course, all started at 9 o'clock. My father came back in and says, "I want y'all to do something for me." "Okay, what do you want to do?" He said, "Go down there on 2nd Broad where all those people hang out that want jobs and get 2 guys and give them $5 each. When we start picking the jury," I'm not going to tell you who the lawyer on the other side was, but he wouldn't settle the case. My father says, "When we're picking the jury, I want you to walk here in the back of the courtroom and seat those 2 guys in the back and walk up there and in the stage whisper say, 'Daddy, the 2 witnesses are here.'" And we did that. The lawyer on the side of it asked for recess. They settled the case.
Oh, Yeah, I think mediation has played
Oh, yeah,
a big part in the sort of the trial practice over the last really 15 years.
yeah.
There are fewer.
Trial lawsuits was fun as far as I was concerned. Now, you're always nervous, but as you asked the first 2 or 3 questions, you smoothed out and you went on and did it. I tried a bunch of them over the years.
You have watched the practice in Nashville develop. Does the Bar Association play an important part?
I have never been much of a participant in bar functions, particularly the last 20 years when it comes to drug courts. But yes, it plays a big part of the way things operate in Nashville. And again, there's collegiality in the bar, and that's just something that I don't know, I just never was much of a joiner, never have been much of a joiner, and I never spent much time with the Bar Association. Of course, I think the best times of Bar Association when they used to have the bar picnics down at Hobbs Farm, and that was more fun than anything going.
That was more fun than a barrel of monkeys.
But there again, you got to talk and meet and be with lawyers that you didn't see very often.
Yep.
It was a lot of fun.
I think one of the challenges facing the Bar Association, just while we're talking, is that the size of the bar is so much larger now.
I mean,
Keeping people, with a feeling of cohesion. And I think we do a pretty good job of it in Nashville.
I'm reminded again of an old Howard Butler story somebody told me. Said he was sitting in court one day, on a motion day, I think it was in Judge Losa's court, and the lawyer next to General Butler poked him, he said, "Who is that young lawyer sitting over there across the way by that old lawyer?" And General Butler says, "Hell, I don't even know who the old lawyer is." I mean, that's about the way it's gotten.
What is other than continuing to work in your work for the drug court, any future plans, travel and things like
My
that?
wife and I like to travel. We like to take cruises. That's about all I plan on doing. The Supreme Court decided that they did no longer needed a senior drug court judge, so my tenure will expire sometime this year, and the Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services has told me that they would like to hire me to operate all of the courts, so I'll operate them as an operator, not as a judge.
Well, excellent. And that's quite an honor to be asked.
Yeah, it is. People don't understand what it takes to operate a drug court. Now, say they've given us money for a new female facility, and that's all they've given us. We don't know where it's going to be. We don't know what location. There are no beds, there's no furniture, there's no food, there's nothing. The money is there. So we've got to go out and set all of this up and see if we can find furniture, see if we can find vehicles, see if we can find everything. And so that's what we'll have to do. There's an old saying, I guess they don't do it anymore, but at the courthouse, they used to say, "Don't sit anything in the hall, because if you do, Judge Norman will grab it and take it to the drug court." I haunt State Surplus every day. I'm on their website looking for stuff for the drug court.
Well, I can't tell you how much it means to have somebody who has the dedication you have to making this a reality and to helping people with a pretty terrible problem. And it's really appreciated, Your Honor. Have we left anything out
Not that I'm aware of. No.
Well, it has been a real pleasure and an honor to take your oral history today, and I thank you for giving your time.
Yes, sir.